years in the works, and nearly finished, making these street lights street smart.
So this is new. What you see on the tablet here is what we see in real life on the streets and the street lamps.
Yeah, that's right. You can see all the different circuits, how many lights are on each pole, and if the lights are working or not.
Back at dispatch, the city's electric workers say the new communication between the streetlights and the app makes their lives easier.
This is Streetlight Viewer. It's the largest program to install smart lights in North America.
Every single one of these dots, a new smart LED streetlight. But the part of this major infrastructure transformation that you can't see, the climate impact. Each of these lights, nearly 300,000 of them, doing their part to reduce the city's emissions.
The goal of the project is to save energy, to improve the quality of the lighting, and to create a network that's more efficient and easy for the city to maintain.
LEDs lower electricity demand and therefore reduce greenhouse emissions. 95% of the energy in them is converted into light, which means only 5% is then wasted as heat, making them 60 to 80% more efficient.
So in aggregate, that's about the same amount of energy 16,000 houses use in a year.
Wow.
And it's the equivalent of taking 30,000 cars off the road from a greenhouse gas emission standpoint.
Just by replacing all these light bulbs?
Just by replacing all the lights.
These LED lights do more than just save energy. Because they last significantly longer than the bulbs we're used to, they cause less waste.
According to the Environmental Protection Agency, the transportation and energy sectors are the largest emitters of greenhouse gases in the U.S.
There's a finite amount of energy available in a city, really across the globe, that we need to be thinking differently about it. So there's the need.
Gia Biaggi, commissioner of the Chicago Department of Transportation, sees this update as a small way to make a big impact for the climate and the city's budget.
We're actually expecting to save $100 million over the next 10 years. It is a huge number.
That savings, after a $160 million investment, the city expects the project to pay for itself.
I think what we've shown for a city of this size, that we can pull it off, and that means cities all over the country can do it too.
Right, that's a lot of potential there.
Tons of potential. And really, I think one of the things that we like to do in Chicago is we like to experiment and pilot things and then figure out how does that become a systemic change.
Los Angeles has installed about half of the amount of lights as Chicago, and some smaller cities like Tucson have already made the switch. Other cities like Philadelphia, Boston, and Pittsburgh are currently developing their streetlight modernization plans. With Chicago now shining in a new light, the energy cost of streetlights has already been cut in half from last year, charting a greener future for America's third largest city.
It compels us to look at, well, what other parts of our infrastructure can we think about in this way? Are there other public-private partnerships that can deliver on this? These are the kinds of futures, I think, that a project like this provokes.
And Maura Barrett joins me now to talk more about her reporting. And Maura, I found it so interesting that other cities are starting to look at this. And, you know, we talked about the bipartisan infrastructure law earlier in the show, and what big aspect of that deal is clean energy and investing in the energy grid. So how could that fit into expanding the scale of a project like this?
Well, it's definitely something that Chicago and these other cities are hoping to be a roadmap for, right? But when you look at that infrastructure bill, there is a big allocation towards transportation funding, which obviously, as we saw today, is very much needed. And so the city of Chicago actually harnessed on this public-private partnership. And so this can be done at scale at any other city, really, across the country. And Gia Biaggi there, the commissioner we were speaking with, kind of laid out how this is a jumping off point for the larger ecosystem around sustainable infrastructure. And there's indications from experts that other cities will latch on to this model as well. The Northeast Group is a smart infrastructure market intelligence firm, and they actually estimate that the U.S. will invest about $8.2, I want to make sure I'm not saying million versus billion dollars, so $8.2 billion in the next decade here, which is huge, obviously. And it's something that is, you know, these cities' infrastructure plans are latching on to. Over the next decade, though, is a long time, right? And so in the meantime, you can consider doing this in your own home, Gabe. I mean, switching out all of your light bulbs into LEDs, going to stop climate change? Not necessarily, but it definitely will slow the process.
Yeah, small changes can make a big impact. Maura Barrett in Chicago. Maura, thanks so much for that reporting.